call to order the THEC meeting for November the 10th, 2011. We'll ask Ms. Carter if she'll call the roll.
Ms. Atkinson?
Present.
Mr. Bones?
Present.
Mr. Fry?
Present.
Mr. Hargett? Ms. Hayes?
Present.
Mr. Isaac? Mr. Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Kinsey?
Present.
Mr. Lillard? Mr. Mann?
Here.
Dr. Nixon? Mr. Walden?
Here.
Mayor Warden? Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Wilson? Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Glad to see everyone here today. And before we go on, I want to welcome our newest member of the commission, Mr. Greg Fry. You will stand up or sit down, whatever you want to do.
I appreciate being here. I am a student from Dyersburg State and currently at UTM, involved in the SGA, helped co-found the Non-Traditional Student Association. Recently got a veterans organization off the ground. Member of Lumina as well, so I still work with Dyersburg State as well as UTM and other transfer students. And I came in on the BUS program, now interdisciplinary, under music business with a concentration in international marketing. But as of the last semester or so, I'm easing a little more toward business law. And that's just a little bit about where I am today, and I appreciate having this appointment and being here. Thank you.
Glad to have you on board. I know I'm one of those non-traditional students myself, so glad to have you on board. We now entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
We have a motion second to approve the agenda. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Now, if you'll take a look at your minutes, you should have received it previously. We'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second to adopt the minutes from our July 28th, 2011 meeting. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Dr. Rowe.
Actually, it's your report, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, you know it is my report. I just first want to thank Russ and David. Over the last couple of months, I've had a chance to listen in on a progress report with regard to Complete College Tennessee and the funding formula committee as they continue to meet on a periodic basis to discuss the effects of the new funding formula. So thank you for including me in on those discussions. It's been really exciting. For my remarks today, we all know that tomorrow is Veterans Day. And first, I would like to acknowledge anyone in here who is a veteran. If you would stand, please. Let's acknowledge you. Thank you for your service to our country. And what I'd like to do is to read the first paragraph of the proclamation from President Barack Obama. It says, "Today our nation comes together to honor our veterans and commemorate the legacy of profound service and sacrifice they have upheld in pursuit of a more perfect union. Through their steadfast defense of America's ideals, our service members have ensured our country still stands strong. Our founding principles still shine, and nations around the world know the blessings of freedom. As we offer our sincere appreciation and respect to our veterans, to their families, to those who are still in harm's way, and to those we have laid to rest, let us rededicate ourselves to serving them as well as they have served the United States of America." Again, thank you for your service. Those are my remarks.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and guests. Thank you all for being here. My remarks will be brief. But first, I too would like to acknowledge all of our guests. But we have with us today two returning members, former members of the THEC staff. One is Wendy Tabor, who's back there. Wendy was part of the Charter Gear Up staff and left us a couple of months ago and is still working with us through the Student Success Access Network. So glad Wendy's back. And then also Jim Vaden, who you recognize, Jim, who longtime chief fiscal officer with us and left, actually retired within the last year, and then was with us as on the part-time basis, but he's back. I would note, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, We are very fortunate at the THEC staff to have not only your guidance and support, but also the guidance of support of a group we call the Board of Elders. And actually sitting right across from us, Dr. Roy Nix, Chancellor Emeritus, President Emeritus of ETSU, Dr. Angelo Volpe, President Emeritus of Tennessee Tech, and Leonard Bradley, a longtime retired state employee, Vanderbilt professor, Tusculum professor, the current members of the Board of Elders. Now, you know who is not sitting with them would be Mr. Vaden. So I think there's some kind of an internship.
I'm not old enough.
I didn't know whether he was in training, initiate or whatever, but that's. But anyway, Jim, glad you're with us. Glad you're back. So my remarks are basically just to maybe state the obvious. The context for today's agenda is primarily the Complete College Tennessee Act. And virtually everything that we discussed this morning and we'll discuss this afternoon fits within that context, as well as the Master Plan for Higher Education, or as we call it, the public agenda. So just a few things about that. In particular, you heard this morning about the new academic program that's being proposed at Tennessee Tech. We will ask for your consideration this afternoon. This is the baccalaureate, the BS degree in environmental and sustainability studies. And this, I would say, illustrates what we're trying to accomplish through the Complete College Act. It's a program that's needed by the state. It makes absolute sense for Tennessee Tech to be offering this program. So that part of the act that's about mission distinctiveness, this is how it is to be. And so we appreciate the Board of Regents, Dr. Short, and President Bell and Tennessee Tech for this kind of program that really speaks to mission clarity. Not on the agenda today, but something we've mentioned to you in the weekly update, is that we recently hosted a strategy lab, which is part of the national Complete College agenda. This is the Lumina program, where states that are doing something that would not only helping productivity in their own state, but would help other states having exposure to or being familiar with. So we hosted for a 4-hour meeting back on October 24th, 10 representatives from 10 other states who met in this room. Russ and his staff presented how our outcomes-based formula came to be and how it operates. And it was a very matter-of-fact but rather intense conversation. I would say one thing, everybody at that meeting was there because they wanted to be. That didn't always happen, but it did that day, and they all wanted to know and they wanted to learn. So I think that's another good indication of what we're doing. There was a Complete College Academy hosted here in Middle Tennessee just last week, in which 8 institutions, Board of Regents and UT, came together, their chief executives, their senior staff, faculty members, to talk with one another, to compare notes, best practices, but also to have outside experts from other states that could talk to specific projects. Again, it's all about how we implement the Complete College Tennessee Act. Something that's coming up soon, in fact, we just received a proposal yesterday. Tennessee will be one of 5 states participating with the public agenda, the national organization, New York-based, about community engagement. And there's a better word for that, but it's the whole idea of community-based initiatives that will help reinforce what the higher education reforms. So so once these reforms are in place and we're making these improvements, the public will be far more better informed, aware, and more Tennesseans will be able to participate and benefit from the reforms. So we're really excited about that. I'm not sure who the other states are. Again, this is funded by Illumina, who have been very, very helpful to us. So our staff continues to be in discussions with the Senate Lottery Stabilization Task Force and looking at again, how the lottery scholarship can be attuned more to the Complete College agenda. The other objective there, of course, is to scale the program, the scholarship program, to within the means of what the lottery is generating. on a year-to-year basis. But again, there's a focus there on why we're doing this. You will hear later this afternoon from Leanne Mary and Troy Grant in our post K-12 P16 office about the Lumina grant that has just been announced. Lumina has awarded the city of Memphis as one of 12 cities to focus on Latino student success. And I don't want to preempt them, but I'll tell you the backstory to that is that along with this is that there was a visit by one of the senior Lumina Foundation officers who visited Memphis just last week, and thanks to the work of Cato Johnson and Mayor Wharton, he met the entire day, it was Jim Applegate with the Lumina Foundation, with key people and key groups in Memphis about their strategies for increasing the number of people in Memphis, Shelby County, with college credentials and college skills. And it's the Latino project is certainly a big piece of that. But I do want to thank, here in the presence of the Commission, Cato and Mayor Wharton for really making that a very successful venture. Another comment about the agenda today. You heard this morning about the report card on teacher preparation programs. You're also going to be hearing a status report on our Race to the Top initiatives, which tie directly to the reforms with K-12. And then the Park initiative, which is all about the college and career readiness initiative. And Mike Krause will speak to that, as will Carl Haidt, president of Cleveland State, who represents the state in that national effort. So, we don't want to overplay it. This is how it's keeping us focused. And now, I would like to acknowledge some new members of the staff who have joined since the last commission meeting. And when I call your name, if you would either stand or nod or wave. Erica Bryce. Erica is with us, works with Stephanie Bellard in the post-secondary authorization division, and she has a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in clinical psychology, which is, as we've noticed, is eminently qualified to do our line of work. Wilson Finch. Is Wilson with us?
He's at the KL meeting in Chicago.
Right. Wilson, whom some of you have met, is with us working directly with this $1 million grant we were fortunate enough to receive, Gates funded through Complete College America, and it's the two major initiatives that for the next 18 months. But it's the prior learning assessment initiative and the advanced advisement tool. So we're glad he's with us. Matthew Freeman. Matthew was with us as an intern and is now back with us as a graduate assistant working in David Wright's area of policy planning and research. He is currently working on his master's degree at MTSU in quantitative psychology. Another dimension that Carolyn Qualls. Carolyn is with us, also working with Stephanie as a legal and administrative specialist for post-secondary authorization, and she may be familiar to some of you because she came to us from the Legislative Plaza, where she had worked directly with Senator Pro Tem Emeritus Lois DeBerry. Speaker. Sorry. Peggy Cockerham. Peggy just joined us, also working in post-secondary with Stephanie, and she has a master's business administration finance degree and extensive banking and finance experience. Penny Shelton. Penny is working in David's area as an analyst, a research analyst, and she was, right before she came to us, she was with Trey Hargett in the Secretary of State's office, and she has a bachelor's degree in history and a MPA from Auburn. Blake Walker. Blake? Okay. Blake really just, nobody told Blake. Blake just started with us. Blake came to us is right out of an associate degree program at Nashville State and is working with us in the computer information systems. Very glad he's here. So that pretty much does our staffing, Mr. Chair. Now I need to conclude my remarks. One final report, and it's with very mixed emotions that I will announce the retirement of Dr. Linda Duran as Chief Academic Officer of the Commission. Is Linda here? Oh, good. That's good. Linda is leaving us at the end of the calendar year, and there will be an opportunity either between now and then or right after that for a more fitting farewell tribute to her. But suffice it to say that we will miss her. Linda's entire career has been dedicated to Tennessee higher education, both in the public and the private sector, in the classroom, in academic administration, and at all levels. She was at Carson Newman College, Volunteer State Community College, UT Nashville, East Tennessee State University, where Dr. Nix hired her, the Board of Regents staff twice, and then here at THEC. She's been with us since 2005. And I don't need to tell you this, she's been the driving force, in a reserved kind of way, but the driving force of a lot of the major initiatives we've had here at the Commission in the last 6 years. So I can't say enough about how much we're going to miss her, but how much we appreciate all that she's done for us. She's been our link to so many different things as far as based on her experience, how campuses work, how accreditation works. In many ways, she's been our compass, whether it's in terms of academic policy or just civility, which is, to the extent that we have it, it's attributable to Linda. So we truly have all benefited from her work and her friendship, and we wish her well, but we too would like to keep her engaged as much as we can in the future. Linda. That concludes my remarks.
Dr. Duran, it's been a pleasure working with you. Looking forward to you still coming around and seeing us as often as possible.
Thank you very much.
We're now ready for our system reports. We're going to ask Dr. Short. You'll fill in for Chancellor Morgan today on the Tennessee Board of Regents.
Sure. Just for those that don't know, I am not John Morgan. I am Paula Short. I'm delighted to be able to bring some remarks on his behalf. As you probably know, the University of Memphis has been working with the Lambeth campus, opening doors to students this fall. In the first part of my report, I'd like to ask Dan Lattimore, Dr. Dan Lattimore, who is Dean of the University of Memphis Lambeth campus, to give you a brief report. Status update on Lambeth.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been only since you met last that we have had the Lambeth campus. In fact, it was August 5th that the bankruptcy judge let us go into Lambeth campus. But before I talk about that, I should clear up one thing. Some people have asked, are we going to have athletics there? Well, Lambeth had a winning football team. They didn't lose a game last year. What we should have done is switch football teams.
Dan, let's not go there.
But we are not going to have athletics at Lambeth. We can assure you of that. The people in Jackson and the surrounding area, the West Tennessee area, have just been wonderful to us as we took over. Actually, August 8th was our first day on campus. We started classes August 29th. So you can imagine in those 3 weeks, it was a whirlwind. We had to hire staff, we had to hire faculty, we had to recruit students. Now, fortunately, we've had a presence in Jackson since 1955. In fact, you had approved a center there for us years ago at Lambeth. And so we've been teaching there for a good many years, but it was the upper division and graduate level that we've been doing, mostly for non-traditional students. We did move those students over and our faculty there, and so that gave us a good start. This fall we had 284 students, and again for 3 weeks we felt that was pretty good. But we expect a lot more as we progress. In the spring, we already have gotten many people to indicate they want to come this spring. We won't know for a few weeks exactly how many, but our big push really is for the fall. We're really looking to grow the programs in the fall. So what I've given you as a handout is just some brief points, bullet points, to let you know where we are. In our report to you, we said we would like to have 250 FTE in the year 2011-12. We have 159 in the fall, so I'm very positive we'll far exceed that amount. So I think we're in making good progress to do that. We continue to get numerous phone calls, people dropping by, emails. It was so I had 750 the first day, so it just overwhelming almost. The interest that's there for a public university. So we're really pleased to see the warm welcome that we've gotten. We will, as we look forward, we will continue to target our adult population, our non-traditional student, because we have a Back on Track program that's very successful in terms of getting students that you're looking at in your Lumina grant, those same kind. However, for the fall, we're especially targeting the more traditional student. So we're doing a lot of our recruiting efforts and that kind of thing would be geared for that. And you will notice that we're going to be adding some programs in 2012. Those are really geared for the more traditional student. Your English, your psychology, your communication. So those kinds of programs we'll be adding for 2012. We've been doing several different special events. We had a fall festival there on the Quadrangle. It's a beautiful little campus. It was great weather. We had about 500, 800, we're not sure exactly how many community people that came out for an alumni welcome for everybody. We're trying to emphasize that it's University of Memphis Lambeth. Trying to incorporate those people that were the alumni for Lambeth into the program and the community and keep that name so it has that historic significance. And I think they're accepting that. We're accepting their alumni from our alumni base, and we've gotten real good response from that, I think. You might want to, on the bankruptcy issue, I'm not an expert in that, so let me just, this is what the lawyer wrote for us. So. That, in fact, on this last Monday, a consent decree was entered, which approves the purchase by the stakeholders, and the transfer to the state is in the process. It has to be reviewed by the Attorney General. When that's done, it will go to the Executive Committee of the State Building Commission, and they think all that should be done by the end of December. I think it may be done even by the end of November. We're on a pretty fast track with that. So we're looking forward to that. We have not been able to do a lot of things until that happened. We couldn't make any changes to the assets, so we couldn't do any capital improvements, anything like that, really, except things that were life-threatening or major like that. But we have put in IT infrastructure. The IT infrastructure was probably the weakest of anything there, so we've done that. But we do have, and the fire marshal has given us a list of things. We have 62 things. We're down to 21 now. We're making progress, and so it's just a really delight to be there. We're pleased to have the University of Memphis presence there in West Tennessee. We think it'll give access for a lot of students that didn't have access to public education, that access there. So I'll be glad to answer any questions, but that's where we're going.
Where do you think your enrollments will be in 5 years?
Well, we've projected 1,000. I think there'll be 2,000. I think it'll max out. The facility will hold about 1,250 at one time. So if you had 1,250 day students and 750 or 1,000 a night, that's what I think will happen in the next 5 years.
Any further questions for Dan? Dan, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I would like to make just a couple more comments in my report for the Board of Regents. You'll notice on the screen a website for the Tennessee Transfer Pathways. I just wanted you to know that David talked to you earlier about the work that the University of Tennessee system and the Tennessee Board of Regents system has done over the past year to create these transfer pathways for our students. And we do have a very active website that is available, that's a collaboration between the two systems. We were able to secure some funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to help underwrite some of our work with this. They've been very interested in our transfer work. And I just wanted to let you know that that's a very interactive website. Students can go there. They can learn which pathways require what, where they can transfer to. They can even print out a plan of study, take it with them to their advisor. And it's in its simplicity, I think that it has become a very useful website. We have had over 82,488 page views. We've had over 15,000 visits to the website since it went up in August. We have found that there are 5 cities in the state that are generating a lot of the activity: Knoxville, Nashville, Chattanooga, Memphis, and Oak Ridge. We've also noted that the top pathways that are being visited, interestingly enough, based on our earlier conversation, include business administration, accounting, pre-nursing, criminal justice, and psychology. So some of the Google Analytics we have from the website are helping us understand a little bit better what folks are interested in. So I wanted you to see it. I encourage you to visit it. Again, it was a very, this whole activity was a very productive and wonderful collaboration between the two systems. I also wanted to point out that we did have institutions participating in the Tennessee Completion Academy, as did the University of Tennessee, and I know Dr. DiPietro will mention that also. I wanted to let you know that the feedback from that has been extremely positive. Our campus presidents, our participants, our teams that were involved in that over the 2 days, even though they weren't quite sure what they were coming to and was it really going to be beneficial, have all said that they learned so much and they're energized, and many of them have told us they're going to hold their own completion academies in their own institutions. So the openness to new ideas and new ways of helping our students, developing strategies to help them be more successful and complete their credential, I think is very, very good. And I just wanted to thank Jessica Gibson and THEC and all of the sponsors of the Completion Academy, the Tennessee Business Roundtable, the Governor's Office, and the systems and so forth. It was really quite an exciting event. I also wanted to comment on one other thing that the Chancellor particularly wanted me to mention, that through the Complete College Tennessee Act, our legislature and the Commission ask our institutions to increase our productivity, and our campuses have responded. Statewide, our outcomes grew more than 3% this past year, so we're very encouraged, and we appreciate THEC's support for recognizing our institution's success through the request for the appropriations that you discussed earlier this morning. That's very, very important to us. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And I do have transfer bookmarks. Katie and I wanted to make sure you left with something in your hands. And we'll give those to you before we leave today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that great update. Right, we're now ready for University of Tennessee. Dr. DiPietro.
Well, Chairman and Commissioners, it's a pleasure to be here. A lot has happened since, I guess, July 28th when we last met, but I'll try to catch you up on in my report. First and foremost, enrollment's up at Chattanooga. When you look at Knoxville, the parameters around the academic accomplishments of those students in the admitting class get stronger and stronger each year. And at Martin, well, our enrollment continues to be at about the same level as years past. They continue to really touch a group of young people that otherwise may not think about four-year institutions. At UTK, our board just acted last month to rename the SIRE Center, which is a Center for Interdisciplinary Research and Graduate Education, that is a PhD-level program that ties graduate students between Oak Ridge National Lab and faculty members at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, after Governor Bredesen. Governor Bredesen deserves a lot of recognition for the creation of that center. Frankly, I don't know whether without that catalyst we would be as closely tied to Oak Ridge on the academic side as we are today. And I recall there was a commission meeting not long ago where we approved a PhD program there in record time, I think, from the standpoint of getting it through the commission. And so it's very, very fitting that we named that center after him. And all he has done, and all he will do, rather, because he intends on continuing to meet with these young people. He's a physicist. He can speak their lingo. And they're very, very smart, very talented students. We had them at our board meeting, and if you all could see them, I'm sure you'd be impressed. We've done a significant amount of celebrating this year from the standpoint of anniversaries we've recognized. 125 years of educational programming at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. 100 years of developing healthcare professionals and doing biomedical research at Memphis. 40 years of activity on the part of the Institute of Public Service. And so we've been at a few parties, and we've had a good time recognizing those milestones which are real important about the commitment of the University of Tennessee to those campuses and institutes being recognized. We opened a community center in Jackson as a branch of the UT Martin campus. There will be initially 300 students enrolled there. And, you know, I would call your attention to the fact that University of Tennessee Martin did that without an additional state dollar being invested. And that should be another good feeder system for that UT Martin facility in the western part of the state. I've conducted campus visits, been to all the institutes and campuses in the fall of the year. That's been a tradition. I've changed the style of those completely. It used to be that, having been on the other side of that fence as Chancellor for Agriculture, you would, what I thought, drive the president brain dead with PowerPoint presentations and hours of dark rooms and slides. And instead, we decided that we'd talk a little bit to each of the campuses and institutes about the strategic planning effort that we're undertaking out of our office, and then really sit down with faculty, staff, and students in separate groups or together and hear what they had to say about our place. And be less about us being talked at or talked to, but instead having a discussion to get a feel for how things are going at all the campuses. And it's been a real pleasure for me to sit down with students at all those places and hear from them. You hear everything from parking is a bear to I really love my professor in language arts and think she's one of the finest people who's ever taught me, to issues about I can't get the courses I need and we still have got room to improve. And you know, I think that Chattanooga particularly has an opportunity to grow. I get a little worried about growing much at Chattanooga very quickly simply because we've got a housing issue there and we'll have to figure that piece out. But we will be going to the Building Commission in not too distant future about that. The strategic planning effort's off and running, and we've got a website that's available. If you go to our homepage, you can find that. And it's a very engaged process with a key group of people that is a steering committee, subcommittees to feedback, and we plan on engaging our campuses and institutes voraciously in that activity. We want to be able to walk into our board next June with a strategic plan for the system where all components of the University of Tennessee feel they can participate and advance that plan, and that the majority of people, if not everybody, if they paid attention at all, should have been able to be engaged if they'd like and give us advice about the plan. And Keith Carver in my office has been heading that up, and we're well on our way, and we're on time, and that's where we want to be. The Complete College Academy was a really good thing. You know, if you look at how I view higher education and dealing with change like that, often there's some reticence, often there's reluctance for any institution to go through change. But really, the ability to get that group of people together, in our case from Chattanooga, to participate in that, my hat goes off to the organizers, to those who sponsored it, because our people from Chattanooga went away having drunk the Kool-Aid, understanding that it was good for Tennessee and was going to get the word out, I'm sure, back at Chattanooga. And we'll do it with the other campuses as well, eventually in the future. We're preparing for our budget hearing in a little over a week, maybe just a week. And we're concerned about the operational side of our house from the standpoint of additional budget cuts. You know, our effectiveness and efficiency committee of the board has pushed us, along with our own efforts, just to do this, to be more effective and efficient, to save $55 million in annualized costs across our system. We'll continue to have to be cognizant of how to impact savings. And, we really appreciate what's in the materials that you have in front of you on the state appropriations side, that in the case of non-formula units, there's been some help there on the operating side, and they dearly need that. So I appreciate Rich's help with that, Dr. Rhoda's help with that, as well as Russ Deaton's. And I look forward to the Commission's action on that. We've made progress on capital funding like I never expected we would have at this point. It's still not over, but we have been talking to TBR and THEC about an approach that's more sustainable over a period of time of, say, 3 to 5 years, that will allow us to do planning and build more buildings across our systems. And I think that when you look at the opportunity we have in front of us with very reasonable loan rates, the ability to have a sustained effort to correct the problems we have in our capital needs as well as capital maintenance over several consecutive years, we're looking forward to that opportunity to talk with policymakers about further advocacy for that approach. We continue to be cognizant and aware and participatory in the lottery task force. One of the tenets I feel is essential there is that if at all possible, allow young people the opportunity of a 4-year window to implementation, so that a person walking into a high school classroom this year has the ability to know how the game is played as opposed to shifting the parameters on them halfway through their high school experience or whatever. We have a compensation survey we've completed that shows that we have gaps across all of our campuses to the tune of about $71 million just to get us to the median of the review that we did. And we'll be trying to work with our Compensation Advisory Board, our chancellors, and others to figure out how to close those gaps. We also are in the midst right now of an HR survey about our workplace. We've had pretty decent participation. About 30% of the employees thus far have completed that survey. That's another way for us to look at, how do we make our place better for our employees. We will be completing that by the end of the month. So I've been on quite a journey the last year. It's been a year since I got appointed or elected. Started on the first day of January. And life has changed a lot for this veterinarian. Probably the most cognizant way it happened in the last couple of weeks was, we have 2 cats and a dog in our house. And the cat, who I really dearly love, is named Una. She's a little Abyssinian cat. And she was itching and scratching, and she was actually to the point where she had I'm reluctant to tell you, a sore on her neck. And Deb said, "Joe, you got to do something about this." So I said, I'm really busy, so I'll just call dermatology over in the veterinary school, and we'll get you an appointment. And they take the cat in. She takes it in. And the student comes out in about 10 minutes and says, "It's really not a problem, Mrs. DiPietro. The cat just has fleas." So here's a veterinarian who actually helped develop the products that you put on the back of cats that couldn't even diagnose fleas in their own cat. So then the student said, "Dr. Frank, who's the dermatologist there, is really interested in taking pictures and wondered if you might have a few more minutes, say 10 or 15 minutes, so that we can shoot some pictures. She has a talk to give on this tonight." And Deb said, "Sure, I don't have any problem. There's only one condition. Whenever she puts a slide up, tell them it's the president's cat." That concludes my remarks, Mr. Chairman.
It's 2 years to you. Great. Thanks for that update. All right, we're ready for our first action item. We'll ask Dr. Linda Durand if she'd come up and give us some information on the BS in Environmental and Sustainability Studies at Tennessee Tech.
Chairman White, members of the Commission, Dr. Rhoda, this is a proposed program for your consideration. It's the BS in Environmental and Sustainability Studies with 3 concentrations at Tennessee Tech. This program is very much in accord with the Tech mission emphasis in engineering and STEM fields. I presented this program proposal in some detail at the work session this morning, If you have questions, I'll be pleased to answer them. Otherwise, staff recommends approval.
Any questions, staff? Not, we'll entertain the motion to approve this degree program.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second to approve the BS Environmental and Sustainability Studies at Tennessee Tech. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Our next item, we'll ask Dr. Stephanie Bellard Chase to come up and talk with us about authorization of new institutions and approval of new programs and conditional approval of new programs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Dr. Rhoda, members of the Commission. Good morning. Good afternoon, sorry. I have one action item for your consideration today. The Post-Secondary Committee on Educational Institutions recommended that the institutions listed in Section 1B1 and the new programs listed in Section 1B2 be granted temporary authorization and approval. Additionally, the new programs listed in Section 1B3 have been recommended to be granted conditional approval.
All right. Any questions for staff? All right. If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve those sections of the authorization of new institutions and approval of the new programs and conditional approval of new programs.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Okay, and now, Mr. Chair, Julie Woodruff will come to you all with an informational item.
All right, thank you.
Hello. Just a quick item here. Wanted to let you know on October 17th, 2011, Chancellor Lyle issued an order and a declaratory action, you may remember, that was brought by National College of Business and Technology and Remington College. In the order, Chancellor Lyle determined that our 2008 rulemaking proceeding did not comply with the Uniform Administrative Procedures Act. So currently, DPSA Commission staff is in the process of working with the Attorney General's office to figure out just exactly what does this mean for our rules that govern our non-exempt post-secondary educational institutions. So at this time, that's really all the information I have for you, and we hope to update you as soon as we get additional information.
Any discussion, questions? No? Thank you for the update. All right, we're going to call on Dr. Russ Deaton to talk with us about state appropriation recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Rhoda, members of the Commission. This morning we had a pretty in-depth discussion of the recommendations for 2012-13 state operating funds. In sum total, it's $19 million of an increase for the formula units, and it would, as Dr. Short alluded to, recognize the productivity improvements we've seen across the two-year schools and the universities. In essence, it's what the state would be purchasing for the productivity improvements that we have seen. We also recommending $3.2 million in additional Tennessee State Assistance Award funding, the state's need-based aid grant, as well as $6 million for non-formula units, the medical schools, the public service entities, etc. Sum total, about $28 million of new funding, representing about a 2.7% increase in the appropriations. Also of note, this is the first recommendation cycle that the Commission will be recommending allocations for the two-year schools as a sector, not as individual institutions, per the language of the Complete College Tennessee Act, and the material includes that provision. In sum total, Mr. Chairman, that's the approval of the recommendation of the staff for approval.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? All right, we'll entertain a motion to approve the 2012-13 state appropriation recommendations.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. While you're there, I guess you can come to the fee.
Sure can. The summary of the recommendations, again, that were discussed in depth this morning, are a 3 to 6% increase in the in-state tuition, the undergraduate maintenance fee, at all community colleges and universities, except for University of Memphis and UT Knoxville, where the staff's recommending a 5 to 8% increase. At the technology centers, the recommendations of 5 to 10% increase. These ranges, Mr. Chairman, encompass the two possibilities of state appropriations as they exist today, either a 5% reduction, which is included in the materials for information, or the new money that we're recommending to the governor. Both of those scenarios encompass the tuition range recommendations, and we present them here for approval.
All right. Any questions Russ? If not, we'll entertain the motion to approve the 2012-13 student fee recommendations.
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you. That's the list of our action items.
Can I, and on that, I want to thank Russ for that, his presentation this morning as well as the summary now. But just to go back a couple of things. In the materials, and we did look at it this morning, there is a 5% reduction, which we have been requested to prepare. So, again, our recommendation, our request is for the improvement, as Russ mentioned, but we also are complying with the administration's request on that. Russ mentioned this is what's new. Another thing that's new this time is the lump sum appropriation for the community colleges, and as he said, that's a provision of the Complete College Tennessee Act. So we will show how we got to that lump sum, broken down by institution. That'll carry with it. But what's new is then the governor will make a recommendation for a lump sum going to the General Assembly. They will appropriate a lump sum, which will go back to the Board of Regents, and they can allocate it in the way it was requested, or it's their call how to actually allocate that. So that's new. And then also, as Dr. DiPietro mentioned, we have our budget hearing with the governor and commissioner of finance administration on the 15th at 1:30, and that'll be, I'm sure, a streaming video, and we'll make sure that you're stay tuned for that. Yeah. That concludes my.
All right. Thank you so much. I guess while you're there, we're going to go ahead and start in our list of informational items. It's a long list, but just keep in mind the staff has done a lot of work on these items, and so if you can, please stick around and get the updates. We'll go ahead and start with Russ while you're there. Talk about capital outlay maintenance priorities assessment.
Sure thing. A traditional part of the fall recommendations typically include capital projects. This year is a little different. About a month ago, THEC and Governor Haslam jointly requested UT and TBR to take a fresh look at their priorities. It's been a while since we've had a project funded off of the capital outlay list, and there was just a sense of let's just make sure things are still in the proper priority order. So both systems are engaged in that process now. The directive was also included the idea to link the projects to the Complete College Tennessee Act, and also to perhaps incorporate some sort of matching requirement to the capital outlay projects, which has been alluded to earlier. All of that will culminate in early December, Mr. Chairman, with proposals coming from the two systems for the capital projects that will then be packaged together here at the staff level by THEC for presentation and then ultimate presentation to the governor. The process acknowledges a couple of key things. One is that there's a severe backlog of projects, both on the deferred maintenance side and the capital outlay side. It also acknowledges that the current process utilized by UT and TBR is a pretty robust process. There's a really good objective analysis that goes into the prioritization process now, and so the entire task is not to question the priorities, just simply let's just make sure these are indeed still where the higher ed community ought to be in terms of capital priorities. So again, the information presented here is just an update on the conversations. In early December, we'll have a proposal to look at that looks out over several years for capital outlay and maintenance projects that we will bring forward for approval.
All right. Thank you. All right. If we don't have any questions, we'll go to our next item. We're going to ask Mr. Will Burns to give us an update on Title VI Implementation Plan Update and Compliance Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. You'll have to forgive me if I just kind of feel a little disheveled up here. As some of you may know, probably know, I'm usually at the end of the agenda, and I'm just not sure how to handle it's a prominent position. I'm sure nobody else has noticed that, but perhaps, and it's not like I've taken offense to it or anything. But here I am, and I'll do my best. So, but perhaps I'm high on the agenda because of the importance of the topic I'm to be discussing, our Title VI report. Each of you should have a copy of the report at your seat. And as you may know, just by a little bit of background, Title VI is in reference to that portion of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination in participation or being denied benefits in any particular program that's funded with federal funds on the basis of race, color, or national origin. And a few years back, the state passed its own version of Title VI legislation that requires each state agency that receives federal funds to make an annual report. Each year at October 1, this report is to be made to the Tennessee Human Rights Commission. We filed our report a day or so prior to that, and basically, as you'll see there, it's actually a report and a plan, a report on the previous year and a plan on how we intend to ensure compliance in the coming year. And you'll see a lot of information on there in terms of the efforts and how we work with our various grantees to ensure that they're doing their part to enforce or to make sure they're in compliance with Title VI in their respective campuses or in their respective entities, and then also reports on the activities that the Commission Office takes to ensure that we're in compliance with programs such as our Gear Up program and College Access Network and such as that. And part of the requirements each year is to ensure that staff is trained regarding Title VI requirements, and this year Peter Abernathy on our THEC staff developed a module online that each of our employees each of our staff were able to go online and be educated on Title VI, and that information included history of the program, the basic elements of what Title VI provides for and how it can be implemented, and then also provided for a little test at the end to ensure that we comprehended what we were reading. And so my thanks to Pete Abernathy, I don't know if he's in here or not, but for his assistance in helping us do that. But I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if as you look through that, if you have any questions now or later on as you leave in that next day or so, be pleased to answer any questions now or at that time.
Thank you. Questions? No, thank you for that.
Thanks.
All right, we're now ready to ask Mr. David Wright if he'll come up and talk with us about fall 2011 updates on enrollments and graduates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Rhoda, members of the Commission. I'm not going to go through the slide presentation again. I just want to, for the benefit of those that weren't here earlier, give a little bit of a highlight of what we discussed during the work session. First of all, I want to correct one oversight that I had during the work session. That is, I did not recognize Penny Shelton over there, who she and Chris Brewer really did a lot of the work on pulling the data together for that. And as you can appreciate, it was a very data-rich presentation. So thank you, Penny. She's been with us on the job all of 2 weeks, and so we threw her right into the deep end, and she did very well. So thank you. We owe a debt of gratitude to Secretary of State Hargett for letting her come over here. Also, as I acknowledged in the work session, we couldn't do any of these kinds of reports without Dr. Short, Katie High, Claude Presnell, and their data people, who are Greg Schutz at TBR, Dennis Hinksler at UT, and Patrick Meldrum, who's sitting right over here, and Amy Heckman at TECUA. So thank you all very much. We couldn't do these reports without you, and really appreciate it. So as I said this morning, the Complete College Tennessee has focused all of our attention on the college completion agenda, and that being the case, this fall enrollment update has now become the fall enrollment and completions update. And we did mention a little bit about enrollment. Basically, after a long, steady period of enrollment growth in 2 or 3 recent years of quite unusual enrollment growth, this year we've sort of flattened out. We've grown by about a percentage point over previous years. Some sectors have remained flat or actually lost enrollment. And in terms of the hours that students are taking, we've noticed that the students tend to be taking more non-conventional hours as they try to find schedules that meet their schedule, and so we're seeing a growth in web-delivered instruction. In terms of completion, we're headed in the right direction. Undergraduate completions were up 3.7% last year, and as you recall, our public agenda document called for 4% annual growth over the period of the master planning period. Bachelor's degrees, which are by far the largest enrollment or degree type within the undergraduate awards, were up 3.4%. So that's really driving that number. But we observed that short certificate programs at the community colleges were up the most of any in terms of relative change of any degree type. The graduate level, we were up 4.5%. And that's, of course, largely driven by master's, which is the largest degree type. And lastly, we observed that adult students for whom the funding formula pays a premium, a 40% premium within the funding formula, we've seen really impressive growth amongst adult students this last year. And we noted there may be a number of reasons for that, and there are a number of initiatives taking place to make sure that we're able to do well by those adult students when they do arrive on campus. So those are sort of the highlights. We observed that things are headed in the right direction. As Mr. Mann observed, we need to do a better job of incorporating the TTCs into all of our analyses, and we will take that to heart. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion about this item? Not, while you're there, if you want to talk with us about articulation and transfer.
I'll do the same. I'll just hit the high points. Alex Gorbanoff, who I think is not here at this hour, was really the lead analyst on this, and Linda Duran put together the sort of the narrative lead-in section that had to do with making comment on all the remarkable progress we've made over the last year or so in terms of progress toward full articulation. Statute charges THEC with doing a report by October 1 every year on progress that the public system has made toward full articulation, and full articulation is sort of like world peace. It's a noble goal, but you never really think you're going to get there. So we have done a lot of good things. There have been 46 transfer pathways across 28 disciplines in which these 19-hour pre-major blocks of courses have been hammered out between faculty groups of community colleges and universities coming together and determining which courses will define a pre-major pathway in, say, accounting or history or political science or what have you. And so we were given until fall of 11 to get that done, and I believe it was wrapped up around May, something like that. I mean, we beat the deadline by quite a lot. And so, as I acknowledged this morning, really Dr. Linda Duran, Dr. Paula Short here, and Dr. Katie High really have led the charge on all that. You saw in just a moment ago the Tennessee Transfer Pathway website that's been developed so that we're getting this information into the hands of students in ways that they can really take advantage of it when they need to. Well, and then Alex finished up this morning with a report on transfer activity, sort of a demographic profiling of students. That report is actually in your mail-out materials, and if you take a second look at it, in the back there are tables upon tables of where students transfer from and where they go to, how many hours they have when they transfer. But some of the highlights are that we noted the high student mobility of today's students. Last time we looked at this, almost half of students who graduated with a bachelor's degree had started at a different school than the one from which they finished, so transfer is a way of life, so we really do need to make transfer as seamless a proposition as possible. Transfer students have consistently made up about 7%. If you look at the fall undergraduate enrollment in our public system, new transfer students in that semester have been about 7% of the enrollment total for quite a while. They come from a lot of different sources, but most of these are within Tennessee. We don't get as many out-of-state folks coming to Tennessee as we do from within the state. In fact, a lot of our out-of-staters are really Tennessee students who went away to college and decided to transfer back. Vertical transfer between community colleges and universities, or from a university to a community college, that's by far the predominant form of transfer. Lesser so is the between universities and between community colleges. Similar transfer and native students are very similar in most every respect, except transfers tend to be more likely to be adult students. That was the one demographic characteristic that we noted there. And then lastly, in terms of majors, you have liberal arts, health, business, and unknown as the top 4 majors of transfer students when they transfer in. And that unknown is kind of a tricky one because we, of course, want to get students declared and on path as soon as possible because we observed this morning the later that students transfer in, the later they decide on their major, the more likely they are to graduate with excess hours. So that is the highlights of the articulation transfer report that was submitted to the legislature on October 1. We'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions? No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Katie High is passing out the bookmarks since transfer path. But this is one of the ways we're communicating. We're leaving these in public libraries and giving them out in high schools. UT has been traveling the state meeting with guidance counselors, so we need to share with the commission.
Lots of books are being marked
You're
with
saying
those,
we will
huh?
take our bookmark.
If I could say one thing, when David put the articulation report together, we thought there were going to be 350 counselors who attended our conferences, and we had 650. So that was wonderful, yeah.
That is great. That is.
Well, speaking of that, you recall at the work session at the last commission meeting, which was, thank you, Katie, the College Board and their emphasis on the counselors. So it's going to take some thought, but I think it's happening.
Great update. Okay, we're going to ask Mr. Troy Grant to come up and talk with us about Gear Up Tennessee, the College Access Challenge Grant status update.
Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, Dr. Rhoda, members of the Commission, thank you so much for your time today. We're going to provide a brief update on the implementation of Gear Up TN along with the College Access Challenge Grant and give you some highlights on a variety of other statewide initiatives that we manage in the Office of P16 Initiatives. First, with Gear Up, as many of you know, in 2005, the state received a state Gear Up grant from the U.S. Department of Education. Starting in 2005, we've been following a cohort of students through middle school into their high school careers and then through graduation. This last May, those students graduated from high school. In this fall, they have been enrolling in higher education or in the process of enrolling in higher education. The grant officially closed on September 30th. We're in the process of compiling outcomes data in reference to this grant for the submission of the final performance report that will be due to the U.S. Department of Education on December 29th. Once we've compiled that information, we will be glad to share that information with the Commission at a future Commission meeting. As we discussed in the last Commission meeting, the U.S. Department of Education held a 2011 funding competition for Gear Up. Unfortunately, the Tennessee was not funded this go-round. The U.S. Department of Education received nearly 300 funding requests. 34 of those were state requests. Only 19 of those were funded. We are happy to report, however, that the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga did receive funding. We look forward to partnering with UTC in the implementation of their program in any way that we can support the implementation of their Gear Up program. Another one of our programs that we manage in our office is the College Access Challenge Grant. The College Access Challenge Grant is also a U.S. Department of Education grant. It is a formula grant, a one-year grant that is renewable for up to 4 years. We received word in August of this year that our grant was refunded in the amount of $2.7 million. There are two major components of this grant program. The first is a professional development campaign wrapped around collegefortn.org. Matthew Barker, our training and outreach specialist, has been crisscrossing the state providing professional development. In the last year and a half, he has trained over 850 school counselors about using the College for TN resource in the K-12 environment and also with nonprofit organizations. And the more significant, larger piece of this initiative is a College Mentor Corps. The idea behind the College Mentor Corps was to provide targeted mentoring training to high school students in their transition from high school into college, and then to community college students in their transition from community colleges to four-year institutions. The concept was to kind of look at those critical break points in the P16 pipeline and provide real targeted mentorship in those areas. So to accomplish this, we have subgranted out to 6 nonprofit organizations across the state. This is the first full semester of implementation. Amongst these organizations, they have hired nearly 30 mentors who are working in over 30 school systems across the state and partnering with 10 higher education institutions. As we collect data, we have a really robust data system in terms of what these mentors will be doing in terms of matching the mentor activities with outcomes, and we look forward to providing that information to you in the future. The next piece that I would like to talk about is College Application Week. This is a portion of what we've been doing with College Access Challenge Grant funds. The idea behind College Application Week, it's very similar to, if you're familiar with College Goal Sunday. It is what College Goal Sunday is to the FAFSA. College Application Week is that for college applications. We encourage high schools to register their school. They commit to provide time during the school day to give students time and professional support in filling out college admissions applications. This year we saw a 52% increase in the number of sites who registered. That was 196 high schools or nonprofit organizations. With about half of our sites reporting back, we can report that 6,800 applications, those admissions applications, were submitted by students during College Application Week as part of College Application Week activities. The feedback we've gotten from the counselors and from the students has been very positive. We look forward to implementing this event in the future, and we also look forward to forging new partnerships with the higher ed community in terms of how admissions offices could also partner with these high schools in implementing this program. At this time, I am going to invite Leanne Mary. She is the Research and Planning Analyst in the Office of P16 Initiative. She's going to talk to you a little bit about the Tennessee College Access and Success Network, along with some information about a new Illumina grant opportunity.
Thank you, Troy. Through funds from Lumina Foundation for Education's Know How to Go grant and Race to the Top programs, Tennessee established a College Access and Success Network. Some of the network's recent accomplishments include their recent conference and grant competition. The network hosted the conference at the end of October on the campus of Vanderbilt University with approximately 350 individuals attending. The conference focused on creating a college-going culture in Tennessee. In addition, the network opened their inaugural grant competition on October 3rd. They intend to subgrant $690,000 in funds to expand and create college access and success programs across the state. 75% of these funds will go directly to school systems, while the remainder will go to either school systems or nonprofit agencies. The deadline for application is quickly approaching. It is November 16th, and award notification will be on December 9th. The network does have a website. It's posted at the bottom of the screen, and so I encourage you to look online for more information about the grant competition, including frequently asked questions, and pass along this exciting grant opportunity to any local school systems or nonprofit organizations that may be interested. And so at this time, we are really excited to announce a new grant opportunity that THEC and the Office of P16 Initiatives received from the Lumina Foundation for Education that focuses on improving post-secondary attainment of Latino students in Memphis. Of the 65 proposals received, Lumina Foundation funded 12 programs across 10 states. And just as a side note, THEC was the only higher education coordinating body to receive this grant of the several that did apply, and so that's something that we can be proud of. Strategies for Tennessee's grant program specifically include, first, a bilingual public outreach campaign designed to expand college access to the Latino community in Memphis, and second, an expansion of Tennessee's College Mentor Corps model to Kingsbury High School and Southwest Tennessee Community College. Kingsbury High School has the state's largest population of Hispanic students. This grant program will leverage the strength of collaborative partnerships to support program implementation and ensure sustainability. Our local partners in the Memphis area include Latino Memphis, Southwest Tennessee Community College, the Memphis City Mayor's Office, Memphis Talent Dividend, and the Greater Memphis Chamber, and also including Kingsbury High School as well. We're also excited to report that this initiative and this issue in general has received some national media attention, and a press release regarding Lumina's grant initiative has been picked up by several national media outlets, including Chronicle of Higher Education, Diverse Issues in Higher Education, Seattle Times, and the Herald Sun, just to name a couple. So if you're at all interested in this really exciting initiative, be sure to be on the lookout while you're reading the papers. So at this time, we would be happy to take any questions.
Excellent, excellent. And again, Cato, you've been involved in this from the very beginning. You have any comment?
I think the meeting we had last week was exceptional. Also, we have the business community really stepping up and being a part of this. The talent dividend has the business community, the faith community, and so it's an entire community effort. I think it's one of the better things we're doing, and I really appreciate Rich and his staff with all the hard work they've done. And I can take all the credit because Mayor Warden is not here. He had nothing to do with this, so it's working well for me.
I tell you, you're doing really well considering the Gates Foundation monies and
I'm taking credit for that too.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I just had one question. Do you have demographical information on where these colleges, these students that are applying on the high school college application week, do you have demographics on where these applications are coming mostly from?
Great question. So one of the way that the event kind of operates is that the schools register for the event, and so we ask the counselors at each of those schools to report back the number of applications that were submitted from those schools. That information is due to THEC at the end of next week, so we'll have a better idea going forward. But this year we also had students fill out a survey, not only telling us their name and information, but also what institutions that they applied to. So we'll have more information once that information comes in. The event was only 2 weeks ago.
Other questions?
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Great report. Thank you. We'll now ask Dr. Linda Duran to come up and guide us through the next several items, starting with the report on effectiveness of teacher training programs.
Thank you, Mr. White. This is a very important report issued annually for the improvement of teacher preparation programs statewide. There are about 3 or 4 important things to remember about this report. One, it's a very key piece of the state's Race to the Top initiative THEC manages. Secondly, this is an improvement tool, not a ranking of programs. Third, the issuing of the report is required in statute. State Board of Education delivered the report in the first 2 years. THEC has for the last 2, have plans for further refinement of the program over time. And finally, we have worked very, very closely with the colleges of education and colleges of arts and sciences and public and private institutions around the state in the developing of the model. Ms. Emily Carter is the person who has responsibility for the report card, and I'd ask her to come forward and talk some about it.
Thank you, Dr. Duran. We went through the report in more detail this morning during the work session, but just to review, this is a report that is issued annually, and it looks at the effectiveness of the graduates from the teaching programs in Tennessee, so we can get a better sense of how these programs are preparing the future teachers. Again, this is, as part of Race to the Top, we've really worked to improve the report card over the past year, and we'll be continuing to make improvements. But we did allow the institutions to have a chance to look at the data and the results before the public release of the report, and we talked with them about how to understand the data, and we're continuing those conversations because, again, as Dr. Duran mentioned, this is an improvement tool, so we want to make sure that they understand the data, understand how to read it, and how to use it towards those improvements. Again, we've had several changes over this past year. I won't go into all of that, but there are more improvements to come. It'll be available on a searchable database online on our website. We're also going to be doing more individual institution reports, again, to get that feedback back to the programs. And then we'll also be able to include additional growth measures as those are developed by the state for the new teacher evaluation system. The findings that we went over this morning are, again, in the executive summary, and those we're basically looking at some demographic information, academic background information of the teachers that are going through these programs, and then the teacher effectiveness, which, again, is measured by the Tennessee Value-Added Assessment System, looks at placement and retention rates, and praxis scores. Any questions? Yes.
If you look at these programs where they're producing teachers that are not performing as well,
Mm-hmm.
is the next step for the institutions to try to address that in an interface with THEC? Is that the plan, or will there be things coming out of your program that'll help them differentiate why they may be not doing as good a job as the ones that are?
Yeah, and that's so again, these are outcome measures. So from here, we want to look at the why. So help programs, one, identify some of the areas of weaknesses, look at trends over time to see if that is an actual area of weakness. And then on the program side, they can help us look at what is maybe causing some of those issues. And again, we've presented to the state board, and that's something they're also interested in, and they do have authority over the accreditation and licensure. So we'll work with them on how to use the report to help the programs.
But I think, Emily, I think that was a good answer. But so if there's some things, when we look at it, full spectrum, and see some blips or some systemic kind of issues, that's when you can address.
Exactly.
And if there's something in the program part of the teacher prep.
And especially if you see one program that over several years is not doing well, their science teachers aren't doing well. You want to target that area. You have several programs, they might be doing well in one subject or in high school, and they're not doing well in their TCAP composite. So those are ways we like to look at the data to target areas of need.
Could I mention what we're doing in the Board of Regents? Because for the past 3 years, we have been undertaking a redesign of our teacher education preparation programs at our 6 universities, looking at the research on how to produce what it takes for a teacher to be an effective teacher in the classroom and impact student performance. And so we actually have now in board policy the program framework that we are now piloting at our institutions, and it is mandated to be in place by 2013. So hopefully future studies like this will reflect the work that we've done in the Board of Regents and are doing, and credit to our 6 universities and the leadership there, because we have really gone outside the box and are thinking about the way we do this, including implementing a senior residency program that's year-long so students get more experience in the classroom with mentor teachers, really looking at a competency-based curriculum, and using the Tennessee Performance Assessment Model, which is a collaboration with Stanford and Vanderbilt and so forth, so that our graduates will be assessed based on their performance in the classroom before they ever complete their program, and we'll be able to give them feedback on how to improve their performance as teachers. So I just wanted to say that we haven't been sitting on our hands. What you've got now is our old program being measured and reviewed. What you will have after 2013 is a new approach to teacher preparation. And that's been a very collaborative endeavor with THEC, with State Board of Education, State Department of Ed, over about a 3-year period. So I just wanted to put that out on the table so the Commission would know about it, and I think you already know that Memphis is doing that.
Exactly.
So. You mentioned the Teacher Performance Assessment Consortium, and that's something as that's developed, we want to use those measures on the report as well to make sure we're including all of the new changes in teacher preparation and that it's moving with the programs as they improve.
So I don't want to I just have one other comment or question. So, have you met with people who have told you you're evaluating them wrong? Mm-hmm. People say, it's kind of like, students of mine, they would say, well, I don't like your scale is not the right one, Joe. Deserve A's. Have you met with that, and how have you,
there will be pushback with the value-added assessment system in general, and then I think in particular from the prep programs, we see pushback that the data isn't giving them the information they need to actually find out those areas of weaknesses and make improvements. And I think what we like to point to is that this year we have composite scores, so we are able to differentiate between your elementary and middle school teachers and your high school teachers and the different subject areas, so that and again, this goes to understanding the report. If you really break down the different comparisons, there's a lot of information you can get from the report. I think it just takes some time to kind of dig through it, but certainly, and just in general, some people would say that the value-added assessment system isn't the way to be looking at how teachers are doing.
Thank you. Very good comments. Any other? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
A second Race to the Top item, information item, has to do with the recent activity in preparing teachers to use those value-added data as pre-service teachers before they reach the classrooms of the state. Again, you hear from the Race to the Top staff at every commission meeting. Today, Ms. Katrina Miller will give you more information about these training modules, some STEM activity, and other professional development.
Thank you. Just a quick overview of Race to the Top. I know some of you are new. Race to the Top is a $501 million grant program that the state of Tennessee won to reform education. $250 million of that goes directly to the local education agencies to support work in the school districts, and $250 million of that stays at the state level for statewide reforms. THEC oversees $23 million in Race to the Top projects, over 9 projects. And we recently got an increase in that. It was $20 million. We now oversee $23 million of the dollars. We also sit on the leadership teams and work very closely with the Department of Education and the State Board on the overall statewide reform. As Emily just talked to you about, one of the key parts of our Race to the Top programs here at THEC is making sure that we're producing great teachers who can go into the classroom from day one and lead and be effective at moving student achievement. 2 of the areas that we're looking at to improve our teachers' ability to do that is in increasing the knowledge of value-added data and using data to differentiate instruction, as well as the Common Core State Standards, which will be fully implemented in 2013-14. These standards are very rigorous. It reaches down all the way into the K2 level, where teachers will have to teach teachers in new ways and improve ways to really increase student achievement and make them all level with our national and international peers. One of the things that we're doing is working very closely with both public and private teacher preparation programs to help them understand the data and understand the standards. This has led to Tennessee being selected to participate in the College Readiness Partnership, which is governed by ASCU, the American Association of State Colleges and Universities, CCSSO, which is the Council of Chief State School Officers, and SHIO, the State Higher Education Executive Officers Organization. We are one of 7 states, also in partnership with the National Governors Association, looking at the Common Core State Standards, implementing them in K-12, but also making sure that our pre-service teachers understand them and can use them in the classroom. Tennessee was specifically selected because of our work in the pre-service area around the Common Core Standards. When you talk about, you asked the question, Dr. DiPietro, about what are we doing with these universities, these are 2 of the major projects that we're using to make sure they understand the data, they know how to use it, and that their pre-service teachers know how to use it as well. So we are reaching out, and all of these resources will be available to all 44 teacher preparation programs in the coming future. So we hope that in looking at the report card and looking at our specific results, we can really target the areas that we as a state need to address and increase the ability of our teachers to improve student achievement when they enter the classroom. I can answer any questions you may have about Race to the Top or about our work here. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, Partnership for Achieving Readiness in College and Career, is associated with Race to the Top, but it's a different initiative pointed at national assessments. Mike Krause staffs this initiative for Tennessee. Tennessee is one of just a few states that are in the vanguard with this initiative. Today also, President Carl Haidt is here. He is offering us wonderful support and assistance in the Tennessee effort to, again, move forward with this new assessment model. Mr. Krause.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Dr. Rhoda, members of the Commission. This agenda item is actually very well framed by a comment that Dr. DiPietro made earlier this morning, which is that a lot of our success factors here in higher ed are going to begin more and more to rely on what's happening at the K-12 end of the continuum. The PARCC assessment is a very good illustration of higher ed's deep involvement in an issue that probably a few years ago would have been the sole purview of K-12. The beginning of the PARCC assessment really lies in our adoption of the Common Core standards in July 2010. The state adopted Common Core standards in both English language arts and mathematics. The Common Core standards are not too different from the Tennessee Diploma Project standards that have already been in place. The gap is much more narrow here in Tennessee than it is in the other states. But as we move towards full adoption, which will happen sometime around 2013, we're also going to be again looking at the next logical step, which is how do you assess Common Core standards? The next logical step is assessment. There were two consortia that were launched in response to that. The first was the Smarter Balance Consortium, which Tennessee is not a member of, but the second consortium is the PARCC Consortium, and we are a governing state of that body. You'll see here on the map we're joined by many other states who have decided to become governing members. And what I really want to highlight is higher education's involvement is not just in developing the assessment. Once this assessment is implemented, it will radically alter how students enter the pipeline of higher education in Tennessee. At the end of the junior year, students will take an assessment in English 3. They will also take an assessment at the end of Algebra 2. As part of the PARCC agreement, Tennessee Higher Education will then make a determination at that time while the student is still in high school whether or not they will enter in remedial courses or credit-bearing courses. We, of course, have an interest, though, in what goes on in 3 through 8, and one of the unique things about the PARCC assessment is that throughout that timeline, students will receive continuous updates on where they are in preparation for the assessments they'll take their junior year. So college readiness is kind of woven throughout this initiative. Ultimately, though, the end of Algebra 2 and the end of English 3 are the critical gateways for higher education, and towards that end, we've begun working to ensure, first, faculty are engaged. The English faculty and math faculty at our universities are really, we believe, going to determine the success of this initiative and whether or not the PARCC assessment is viewed as a true assessment of student competency. We formed a steering committee this year. They've met several times, both via phone and in person. These are English and math faculty as well as administrators from both the UT system and the Board of Regents who are providing direct input and shaping the assessment. We've met with heads of both Chancellor Morgan and the Tennessee Board of Regents, met directly with PARCC staff. Dr. Lane from the UT system met directly with PARCC staff to begin getting a sense of how this assessment will look when it's implemented and how it will affect their institutions. Finally, we held a PARCC summit right here at THEC in April. We had over 30 faculty members from both disciplines gather, and they directly shaped, I'm confident to say, they directly shaped what this assessment will look like, and their input was pretty important. And then also we've engaged some of our other faculty very deeply, and they're actually working with the staff in Washington to determine what these assessments will look like. In 2012, we're going to begin moving to the campus level. We'll be holding summits throughout the state to ensure that faculty are acquainted with what PARCC is and also have the opportunity to offer their feedback on the deficits they're seeing in their freshman students. Probably one of the most important things about PARCC, though, is that as they've developed the assessment, they've also reached out to leadership throughout the nation. And in Tennessee, we have been lucky to be part of the Advisory Committee on College Readiness, which is known as the ACER Committee. Dr. Height serves on that committee nationally. He serves with chancellors, system heads from throughout the nation, and he speaks directly for Tennessee in all PARCC matters. So I want to defer to him at this time to give his perspective as a president.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
First, I want to thank Dr. Rhoda because he gave me the chance to serve on this committee, and it's fabulous. As Mike mentioned, the membership is tremendous, but the important piece for us, I'm speaking as a college president, whether it be a 2-year, 4-year, private, or public, we're going to be the recipients of the outcome of this assessment. I think you know right now that in terms of complete college America, there aren't many states that are doing a very good job. And yet I feel, I've been here 15 years now, and unfortunately I've heard too many stories where Tennessee's at the top of the list you don't want to be at the top of, or at the bottom of the list that you don't want to be at the bottom of. And I will say this, because you've heard already today some of the earlier presentations, Tennessee is leading the charge on making sure that the students coming out of high school will be college ready when they come to our colleges. Let me share with you, because this probably summarizes best what we're dealing with. This is a quote from the University System of Maryland Chancellor William Kerwin, who serves on with this group. Closing the gap between high school completion requirements and college entrance expectations is arguably the single most important thing to fix if we are to address our college completion problem. I feel strongly that higher education must step forward and exercise leadership at this moment in time. A lot is at stake for our nation and the well-being of future generations. Much will depend on how we in higher education respond to the challenge in this moment of opportunity. I think the presidents in Tennessee very clearly understand what the priority of Complete College Tennessee is. I know I have my evaluation with the Chancellor next week, and my first priority with him will be the Complete College Tennessee Act. Priority number 2 is priority number 1. You know where that's going, but seriously, we have to address that. And I would say this: if you have not read Thomas Friedman's latest book, anybody read Friedman? He vilifies higher education in K through 12. We've got room for improvement, and there really is a lot at stake, and I think Dr. Kerwin mentioned that. We're not just talking Tennessee. These are standards that are going to be set very, very high, and the colleges and higher education want a role to play in this initiative. Let me read to you the mission statement for the Advisory Committee. The Advisory Committee on College Readiness will work with the Park Governing Board to shape the consortium strategy for working with higher education systems, institutions in K through 12 to ensure the successful development of college readiness assessments that will be accepted as an indicator of readiness for first-year credit-bearing courses by all colleges and universities across Park Consortium states. The committee will also guide the consortium The committee will also guide work the consortium undertakes to develop and identify effective intervention programs to increase the number of graduating high school seniors who meet college readiness standards prior to enrollment. Unfortunately, nationwide, the number of students who test in the developmental range anywhere from 30, 40, up to 90%. And so it has to be a problem we're going to fix if we're going to complete the number of graduates, whether it be in Tennessee or any place else in the United States. So that's pretty much the charge. Let me share with you the important things that the committee feels has to happen. Higher education has to be at the table when these assessments are designed. It has to be a true partnership with K through 12 and higher education. It can't be one group imposing their view on the other. And I really saw, based upon the discussions that took place in D.C., is that there's an effort to make sure that this conversation will take place between higher ed and K through 12. There were 2 motions made by the group to the Park Consortium that they feel will ensure this will happen when the conversations take place. That there be membership and voting rights. Anytime a decision is made about higher education as it relates to assessment, higher education is at the table and is going to agree or disagree, as opposed to higher education not being at the table. Also, too, in terms of the decision-making by the Park Group, any of the following that's discussed by the Park Group needs to include this committee input: the design of the high school assessments, the priority content and standards to be assessed, the name and definition of the performance level, and the finalizing of the cut scores derived from the standard setting process. And so we're hoping that this will have to happen in order for this initiative to be successful, but we also know this initiative has to be successful. Can I take any questions?
I have one question, because I agree
Sure.
with you 100%. It needs to be successful. My question is, with the new requirements K through 12 for graduation, do we anticipate that that should make the job a little easier if these students are having to have these requirements to graduate, to get through the Algebra 2s and the Englishes and the maths all the way?
Let me say this. The important piece for me is the 4 years of math. And I just met with a senior class the other day, 30 students from a rural high school in my service area. This is the last senior class under the old requirements. Not one was taking a math course in their senior year. To me, this will have huge ramifications if they truly introduce 4 years of math, but I also feel there's an opportunity for the colleges in Tennessee to assist the high schools in getting these kids ready at college level. And so there's some conversations going on, and Dr. Short can probably do a better job than I can as it relates to initiative. We really feel, and we've been successful at Cleveland State with our math redesign, is to go in and help the high school in the senior year and give them the chance to take developmental math or a comparable bridge course that would make them college ready when they leave high school. So Again, I want to say congratulate Tennessee for leading the charge on so many of these initiatives. People are looking at Tennessee in terms of what we're doing, both at the K through 12 level, and I'm glad to be a part of this.
President Height, regarding the work of the Committee on College Readiness, how you talked about high school activity from the standpoint of dealing with high schools about their activities, but what about K through 9?
No, I believe it's the initiatives on that end. Mark, you may be in a better, Mike, is K, it's all of K through 12. It's all K through 12, yes.
And in that respect, higher education's focus clearly is a little more narrow. As I mentioned earlier, we really are very focused on those two assessments, English 3 and Algebra 2, with, of course, a secondary interest in all of the assessments that lead up to that. But the PARC Consortium as a whole really starts, they have K through 2 modules that will begin preparing for the first assessment, which begins in grade 3 and then continues through 8. And then in high school, they break out to subject assessments.
Because here's my point. Well, it might be great to work with high schools. As I said earlier today, if you're math adverse and you begin in 4th grade being math adverse, it's no surprise to me that students decide, I'm not going to take a 4th year of high school mathematics. I mean, you got to start early is my...
I think the piece that's being addressed is the changes that are taking place in the schools of ed. Going to be those teachers in that classroom. They're going to make sure that math is not something to be afraid of.
Right.
And I'll agree. My wife teaches 3rd grade, and it goes back to what you just said. That's that first year that they'll do that kind of assessment too.
Any other questions? Yes.
My question is this, because I was just in a meeting a couple days ago over at UTM about the math department. Okay, say you're going to have these assessments in high school after Algebra 2 and English 3. The assessment is going to show where they might be deficient, if they are deficient. What I was told in the meeting that I had is there is an assumption in higher education that these students have been trained in certain criteria. But let's say they haven't been. They didn't, let's say their high school did not place an emphasis on that. Will they specifically target areas to get that student up to speed to get into the respective colleges that they plan on attending?
And one of the most important things it's a very good question. One of the most important things about PARC, though, is it's not just an assessment. It also includes a set of interventional bridge courses that allows the senior year to be used as a time to hopefully get that student, and I really appreciate you bringing up that point. So in that sense, PARC is a signaling tool, and it allows us to assess juniors and be able to say, this is where you need to be remedied, and during your senior year, those sorts of things will be offered. And hopefully at the end of the senior year, the other assessment tools will remain in place. We'll continue to have Compass available, and certainly the ACT will continue to be in place as well. But no, thank you for allowing us to make that point.
Yeah, and the technology is there now where they don't have to repeat everything. Just focus on the competencies they haven't mastered.
That's a good question. Well, President Height thanked us for the opportunity for him to do that. I would thank him for agreeing to do it. And there was no question, Carl, when Mike said that we had an opportunity to have an appointment to the board. It's not like you were part of a proud succession of people we asked. You were the first one we asked. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
By way of introduction to this item, the recent trends in veteran enrollment in Tennessee higher education, I'd like to say that this is a population, veterans who are enrolling in our institutions that we often don't give much attention to in the way of performance and incentive and so forth. And Mike Krause and Thomas Sanford have taken an initiative to look into this topic. In fact, they have generated a paper which has been submitted for publication, and I think you'll find very interesting findings.
Well, I can assure you it is actually a coincidence that we are talking about veterans enrollment the day before Veterans Day. That was not planned. We are at a pivotal time in history in terms of veteran enrollment in higher education. It has occurred one other time, and that was following World War II. The years after World War II saw the GI Bill fall in terms of the level of benefits that were awarded. In 2008, however, that was rectified. The post-9/11 GI Bill was passed. That represents a comprehensive benefits package for veterans, basically meaning at most public institutions here in Tennessee, their tuition is taken care of, they receive a cost of living allowance, they receive books and supplies. That has not occurred since the 1944 GI Bill. Debbie Gardner, who's our Director of Veterans Education here in Tennessee, started taking a look at some trends, and it wasn't hard to notice that we were experiencing an explosion of enrollment in veterans. And so we wanted to take a deeper look at that to determine quantitatively, was there an increase in enrollment, and to see if that increase in enrollment had any sort of thing to do with when the post-9/11 GI Bill was implemented. And I think you all will find this interesting. As we just discussed, the GI Bill has pretty much been a fixture among veterans benefits. People really are used to associating military service with receiving GI Bill benefits. Those benefits, again, fell to a level that they did not keep pace with the cost of tuition, and by the year 2000, about only 40% of veterans were even utilizing their GI Bill. Following the two conflicts that have been ongoing, Congress took a look at revitalizing that package. The result was the post-9/11 GI Bill. And what we have seen is when we plot what veteran enrollment in Tennessee public institutions has looked like since 2005, there's a very clear and distinctive uptick in enrollment. And we see it occurring right after fall of 2009, which was also when the post-9/11 GI Bill was implemented. And so as you can see, we went from 4,800 veterans to almost 8,000 in that span. We took a look at what enrollment looked like in fall 08 and fall 2010, and we wanted to answer a couple questions. First, was there an increase in enrollment? Obviously there was. And we also wanted to ask, did veterans in Tennessee prefer a certain sector of higher education? What we found first is that most institutions in fall of 2008, the mean enrollment among veterans was about 180. So your average Tennessee campus had 180 veterans walking around on it, which actually isn't a large amount. If our smallest enrollment among a four-year university is in the 8,000 range, that wasn't very large. After implementation of the post-9/11 GI Bill, the mean amount of veterans increased to over 300 on each campus. Furthermore, we found out that veterans almost overwhelmingly preferred four-year institutions in this case. That is not to say that our two-year institutions did not experience an enormous increase in enrollment. They did. But in terms of when veterans were presented with a choice between 4 and 2-year, the data indicates they selected 4-year. It's really interesting to take a look at some of our individual institutional numbers. First, I really want to look at MTSU. It's intuitive that Austin Peay is going to have a significant increase given their adjacent location with Fort Campbell. It's also intuitive that the University of Memphis would experience such an increase due to the Millington Naval Station. However, MTSU's numbers are intriguing. They went from 400 veterans to over 800 veterans in the span of 2 years. And the thesis that Dr. Sanford and I have had throughout is if that occurred with any other population of students, people would be flocking to find out what was causing an exponential increase in one group. And we have found that that has occurred not only at MTSU, but also at the University of Memphis. And then UT Knoxville is another very interesting one. As our flagship institution, not co-located with any significant military population, yet an enormous increase in veterans from just under 300 to almost 500. Community college enrollment. President Height is here, and that's fortuitous because his community college had over 100% increase in veterans. And we see that throughout. The bottom line, though, is every single institution in Tennessee experienced an increase of veteran enrollment during this time, and the mean increase was 58% across all sectors. And so we find that to be a pretty important finding. There's a bunch of different implications for this, obviously for resource allocation, but it's important to note many of our campuses are already doing a focus on veterans very well. MTSU has begun programming cohorts specifically of veterans where they're taking classes together. Austin Peay actually has an office in student affairs that is solely focused on veterans. And here at THEC, of course, we'd be remiss not to recognize Tom Morrison and his shop who ensure that GI Bill benefits are even able to be awarded in this state. So we present this for your review. We're going to continue to follow this trend. Clearly, it's going to be interesting to assess how veterans have responded to the for-profit and private sectors, and we look forward to updating you on that in the future. Are there any questions? Dr. Short.
One of the things that we're running up against with our redesign of our developmental studies now making it competency-based, and students work in the labs and move through as they achieve competencies. It's no longer tied to 3 credit hours in a classroom, 3 more credit hours. I mean, they still earn the credit hours, but it's much more flexible. We run into a problem with Veterans Administration not allowing veterans to receive tuition for that type of program. And we have sent them our learning support policy that talks about the design. I believe they visited Ball State. But we would really appreciate some help with that, because we've spent, since 2006, a great deal of effort. And Carl Height is one of our success stories at Cleveland State. They've won national awards, as has Jackson State, for their redesign of our learning support. And yet we're butting up against some problems with helping those that make decisions about payment of tuition benefits to understand it's not an independent study program.
Sure.
Which they won't fund. So if we could get some help from THEC on that. We have some veterans that took courses this summer that have not been able to get their tuition paid.
And I would refer that to Mr. Tom Morrison, our Director of Veterans.
No, Dr. Short, I'm sorry that it hasn't come forth already. This isn't a topic that VA is particularly hard-headed on. I don't know any other way to say it. I suspect what's going to have to happen, and I will start this next week. I was going to start it this week, but I got caught up in some end-of-year reporting. Well, my end of year, not your end of year. Is perhaps we may have to write for what's called an advisory opinion to the VA central office in Washington. We haven't done that very often. I've done it once before, but what I intended to do was make sure that I know. I haven't sent the email out yet, but I need to Monday, I suppose. What I'd like to do is take the organization of the classes that I believe all the community colleges follow, present that to VA, show them that there's a lecture portion of this, and ask them to rule. The local folks aren't going to do it, because it's an issue in more states than this. I found out at a meeting I was at last week, in fact, that Virginia had a similar problem and was able to have it resolved in their favor. So I had asked Virginia to give me some of that information. I don't have some of that. But I suspect that's what it's going to take, and that's what I plan to do. The problem, for those of you who don't know, is that VA is in the 15th century regarding distance learning and online and so forth. And that's no, I mean, it is what it is. And it's a problem everywhere. As our procedures and the way we teach things move forward, particularly toward distance learning, it's taken an awful long time for VA to catch up. Things that we call hybrid courses are an issue for VA. Payment of housing allowances, for instance, I know you don't need details on that. That's something that was raised with this new GI Bill in some changes that took effect on August the 1st of this year. So it's trending in the right direction, except for distance learning. And they're very, very stubborn on anything that they consider to be online training or distance learning. Does that help?
Yeah. On that, Mr. Chairman, just want to say, I've worked with Tom a long time, and I've never seen him really upset, except when this first came up, and that wasn't that long ago. We asked him to go to his room. But he's passionate about it, and I have every confidence. And Tom, a lot of work has been going on, Paula, so we're with you on this.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm glad for you to be upset, because I want a resolution for the benefit of our students.
I've been upset about this issue for a long time. As a matter of fact, the business of online payment for developmental studies courses is the quickest thing I've ever seen put into a regulation by VA. And this was several years ago. It is actually in the regulation now that online distance learning courses cannot be paid, regardless of where they're taught. Our issue here is now that they consider what we say as residents to have an online portion, therefore we're having problems with it. So we'll get it sorted out, and I assure you that I will do it sooner than later.
Thank you.
Can I just, Tom? Virginia is using the Emporium model, which is what we're using, and if it got approved in Virginia, we've consulted with most of the colleges in Virginia, and they're doing it exactly the way we're doing it. So it should fly in Tennessee if it's flying in Virginia.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We look forward to keeping you updated. We think this is a really important group of our students that we want to make sure are served well.
Definitely.
Mr. Chairman, I want to commend the staff for bringing this information to our attention. I think it's excellent, and I think it would be good for an update periodically back to the commission.
I think that's the least we could do for our veterans. Okay. Mr. Rich, our last item.
The last item before you is the proposed meeting schedule for 2012. It follows the same pattern, Thursday meetings on a quarterly basis. I should have started the meeting this way. We appreciate the Commission's ability to change meeting dates for this meeting. Obviously, we don't like to do that. So we'll stick with this schedule for next year unless it appears we need to make some adjustments. But
Thank you, and thank you for your commitment and your service, and everyone be safe. Have a great holiday season. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll try to. We're going to send you some dates, but,